Yeah, and I think it's wild that people will just say that like they don't hate sex workers but are completely fine with these sort of things happening, where it's like, okay.
Right.
And I can't like stress enough that like the whole goal is to just remove people from society, right? Because like if you can't use like delivery apps to have things delivered to you, if you can't use a bank because your banking accounts keep getting shut down, you can't send money, you can't receive money. There's people who won't rent to you if they know you've done sex work. Like, where do you think sex workers are going to go? Because
or like, oh my god, so I'm supposed to travel to Australia next month for some work shit, and I'm not particularly enthused about it, but whatever. Though maybe I can finally track down that one stalker I have in Sydney. But regardless, my boss was like, hey, so we're going to, Australia in July. And I wrote her, I was like, hey girl, so, I've been doing research on sex workers who've been detained at the border and deported. And a lot of my research subjects had that happen in Australia. And she was like, oh, okay, so maybe you can talk to them when we're there. And I was like, no.
That's not why I'm telling you this information.
Not why I'm telling you this. Like, there's a very distinct possibility that I will not be allowed in the country. And she's like, oh. But she's like, she freaked out for maybe like 10 seconds. And then she was like, okay, well, let's be smart about this. Like, we're both Capricorns. That happens. You just chill in Bora Bora for a week and then come meet us in Tokyo. And I'm like, we're going to Tokyo too? And she's like, yeah, bitch, I thought I put that in the email. And I'm like, ah. Yeah. But worth it. If we restricted in movement, we can't find housing, we can't use money in any meaningful way, especially as more places are becoming cashless. It ice us out of every single resource possible.
And it's wild because people be like, well, I don't hate sex workers, or I don't want sex workers to die. And it's like, if someone can't eat, they can't find housing, they can't get a straight job because you're like marred because you've done sex work, and you can't engage with financial institutions, what the fuck do you think happens? How long is someone going to be alive without housing, food, money? Like, you say you don't...
Or like, my Airbnb article went around. Oh yeah, because someone at Vice wrote like a shitty article, and I was like, my article's better, and it was 6 months ago. Fuck you. It was circulating this week, and I saw there were big comments on it that I didn't see when it was published. Mm-hmm. And some woman was like, well, I certainly wouldn't want prostitutes bringing people to my property. And someone else replied to her and was like, okay, but the article isn't about using your home. It's about specifically not using your home for work because they're on vacation.
Exactly.
So, and she's like, well, I don't, it's dirty. Like the point of a vacation is that you're not working. Why would we be working?
It's so wild to me how many people think like, if you're a sex worker, that's the only thing you do. Like 24/7, it's sex work. You never take a vacation. Anytime you talk to someone, it's because you're looking for a client. Anytime you post a picture, it's meant to be a thirst trap to link back to like your OnlyFans. No, sex workers are actual people. Sometimes
anytime someone comes at me sideways and I like roast them, they're like, I'm not your submissive. And I'm like,
this isn't what's happening.
I'm going to lose my fucking mind. And I'm like
if a sex worker, like if a sex worker posts a picture of their garden, like they're trying to tell you something, right? They're like, hey, plant your seeds here, buddy, right? That's what they're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I really thought you were gonna make a hoe joke, but yes.
Well, and now we got there. And with like sex work as an identity, people will be like, well, why don't you just get another job? Like I would if I fucking could. Like that's the point here. And like, I don't necessarily need to be doing sex work right now. But I still am, because A, it's fun. B, money is also fun. And C, I've been doxxed so much that if you Google my real name, then you are going to find out that I'm a dominatrix, or at least I used to be, within like a minute and a half. So why stop now? It's too late. Like, it's, people think that being a sex worker is a mutable identity, like your gender it's immutable, like or unlike, I guess, gender or sexuality or race, and you can just stop being a sex worker. Mm-hmm. But that's not how this works.
Right.
That isn't, I guess the only parallel I can think of is like citizenship, when people are like, like if you don't like, love it or leave it about like America. Like where are we supposed to go? Like that's not how passports work. Like that's not how work works. Like what?
Seriously. Yeah, it's very frustrating. It's just the whole like stigma and the whorephobia. I'm so over it. I'm so tired. I'm so fucking weary.
Right. Or like when most of my shit got shut down, like the DoorDash thing, I stopped working in person when the pandemic hit, and I didn't start up again until about a year ago. In person at least. And like that's when I was losing all this shit. I wasn't doing any sex work. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, the occasional findom, but like, that, which is way harder than you would ever think. Jesus Christ.
Could we define what that is? Findom?
Oh, so, okay, well, how I always understood findom before the pandemic was you would take control of a client's bank account, assets, whatever. You would like set some aside for yourself. You would like get them on a better budget. Even it was almost like being a mean accountant. And then the pandemic hit, and a lot of people were like, "Ooh, I'm going to Findom because we live in a terrible country and I don't have any money." And now I feel like the popular understanding of it is just like being mean online and then going send, and then like someone sends you money. Practice.
I feel like that's actually kind of accurate though. I think that's what a lot of people think it is. Like I just right? you and then you just send me money and like that's my job, and that's not
it. Or like you look mean and you hold a whip and then you write like findom, femdom, pay pig. So cringy.
Yeah, so many people have like such misconceptions about like what sex work is and how it works. But yeah, oh god, do we want to wait until the Trisha? Speaking of that,
oh my god.
Well, I am looking at my notes, and you are naturally tangenting to pretty much everything that was in my notes. I only have one thing left, so you had a Trisha here.
Yeah, so Trisha, I don't even know if this is a good idea, but let's just fucking go for it. So
do it. There's no going back now.
Do I need to have fingers ready?
Actually, if you just want to go to Francesca Ramsey's Twitter, because like that's where the whole thing started.
Francesca Ramsey.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone has been taking like screen caps of Trisha Paytas' YouTube channel because it's listed as like a family channel, right? And there's apparently just a bunch of things she has on there with her baby. It's like, oh, you know, taking pictures with the baby and, you know, just really cutesy family stuff. Although I can't have to say personally, I disagree with using your kids to make money off of like that. I don't know. It's just something that rubs me way about it. But
don't like kids. They don't like me either. We have an understanding.
But in between all these like family oriented clips, like she's promoting her OnlyFans and I guess has videos up like encouraging people to get into sex work and stuff like that. And so now there's like a little bit of pushback being like, this shouldn't be on your family channel. First of all, because it's like a violation of the terms of service on YouTube, right? You're not allowed to have like that sort of content on a family friendly channel, which I can't say I disagree with.
Right.
But you know, and it just turned into this whole like clusterfuck, and now my like DMs and mentions are full of people being like, you just because you're a sex worker doesn't mean you can't be a good parent. I was like, I didn't say that. I just said I don't want to see your titties if I'm trying to look at like cute innocent pictures of a baby. That's all I'm saying. Like, what are you doing right now?
And I'm like, I personally, if I stumbled onto pictures of babies and got to see titties, I would consider that a net positive personally. However, like, I mean, as a community, we don't want to be like, even if you can get away with putting your titties next to your baby, like a lot of people aren't going to get away with that. Yeah. And like that is going to make sex working moms look that much worse, even if you think you're being empowered or whatever. And like it's, you know, actually the one person who went after Francesca also went after me for making a sort of similar point about doms, or said like dominatrices, at least if you're working in a commercial house, stop posting nudity. Just don't fucking do it. I don't give a shit what other doms do in session. I don't care. I do not care. But posting that online is how we get rated, which is exactly what happened 15 years ago when like half of New York City's dungeons got shut down. Yep. Like just don't. And of course the response was like, well, this is a really privileged take, and not everyone who's a dominatrix can afford not to dom naked. And I'm like, well, I think that once their workplace gets shut the fuck down by the cops, then they'll find that they could have afforded it all along. Like, come on.
Seriously, yeah. And it's wild to me. And like someone was dead ass in my mentions arguing and saying like, well, why can't sex be family friendly? That's how you become a mom. I'm like, what the fuck?
I saw that shit.
With you?
See that sounds like, who was that? Nature Boy? That's that Nature Boy shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so you hate incest now? That sounds ableist.
Like, what?
I just made that up, to be clear.
Where did it go? Let me see. Because yeah, I said I'm entirely too goddamn old for y'all to pretend you don't know the difference between saying I'm a sex worker and here's me promoting my content. Right? Like two very
Jessie Sage can say that she's a sex worker and a mother, and it's fine because she's not posting pictures of her kids, sexy pictures of her kids. Like,
and this was the response. This dead ass. Someone fucking fixed their fingers to type this to me as a response. People outraged over family content being in proximity to sexual content baffle me. This is my meal. This is how I made my meal. This is my family. This is how I made my family. Like, what do people think moms and sweet old grandmas do to become mothers? Like, the minors aren't in the sexual content, so what's the fucking problem?
That's what
what
Trisha said?
No,
first
that's
year graduate student seminar shit right there.
And then, of course, I hate when people be like, maybe I'm autistic. Anytime someone says maybe I'm autistic, they're about to say something really, truly stupid. And I responded and said, when you label your content as family friendly, you're going to get views from people who expect family friendly content. It isn't appropriate to sprinkle adult content in the middle of that. Just put it on a different feed. And this person said, I don't know, maybe I just have severe undiagnosed social autism or something. I just don't understand how I just don't understand how something that in the most literal sense possible creates a family is not family friendly. Sex being offensive seems like the ultimate perversion of life. Who said they were offended about sex? I said if I'm looking at cutesy family friendly shit, I don't want sexual content in it. That's all.
Well, like, we all know what family friendly means is like kids can watch it. So
yes.
I mean, we know what that means. It means don't talk about drugs, don't use swear words, and don't get naked.
Right.
That's what family friendly. We know that. No blood. Like,
I cannot believe the way people are like just being so willfully obtuse about this. And the wildest part to me is to defend someone, because Trisha is, my understanding, was rich before becoming a content creator and is a fucking millionaire. And it's like, why are y'all caping so hard for someone who doesn't give a fuck about you, doesn't even know you exist? Like, and for what? Because all you're telling me is that if I'm around small children, they can't be around you because you don't know when it's appropriate to take your dick out or not. That's all I'm getting right now.
Right.
Did you put that in a tweet?
I did not.
That should be your verbatim tweet. You can't be around children because apparently you don't have boundaries. You don't. Yeah, there's nothing to anything.
And then I don't know if you saw the thing about you saw the I think she was an OnlyFans creator in the grocery store. Did you see that?
Oh
like,
my god! Wait, I know where this is going, but I don't.
Yeah. So there was someone who I guess was trying to promote their OnlyFans or whatever, and they were like, I don't know, like fucking a cucumber or something, like in the grocery store.
They were literally fucking a cucumber.
And I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. But yeah, they were like,
that's a health violation. Like,
right? And people were like, you're just being a prude. I was like, no, I'm so
you know, some content creators have to work outdoors because they don't have access to filming spaces, and sometimes a grocery store is your only option.
Yeah, like you can't fucking. I was like, this is unsanitary. You can't be fucking in the produce aisle. Stop it. No. So like the people who are defending that are now like mad at me again about my commentary about Trisha. And I'm just like, why do you people not understand boundaries? And why do you keep trying to make everyone else a part of your scene? Like,
don't understand health. Like, God, I remember last summer, my feet are real fucked up. I used to be a dancer, so like, they broke it a bunch of times. I'm like, I can never find shoes that work for the summer. So I was like breaking in like 10 different pairs, and I had a bunch of blisters on my feet. And I came into work one day, and I had like 2 or 3 feet sessions in a row where they were just sucking on my feet. And then the next day I woke up and I was like, my foot kind of hurts. Yeah, whatever. Like maybe I just walked too much yesterday. And then the next day I woke up and I was like, I literally can't walk.
Oh my God.
And then I realized I had gotten an infection because of the foot worship sessions, and I had a blister.
Oh,
It was I got like a telehealth that I had to like hobble to Dwayne Reed. It took me like half an hour to go 1 block. But like this isn't just like we don't want to see pussy at the grocery store. It's like I don't want to get home and get okay, given I'm not that kind of doctor, so I don't know where salmonella even comes from, but I know I don't want it. And I don't want whatever else would come with like my produce being up someone's pussy.
seriously. And like, I mean, the whole thing is, I thought it was like common courtesy to not involve people in your scene or whatever you're doing if they don't want to be involved. Like, where is the consent part?
Right. Well, and like it's one thing if you're like wearing leather in public, like that, okay. Like if you're wearing a collar or whatever, like whatever. But like if you're actually fucking something or like actually taking your clothes off in public, like oh,
Do you remember any of the details of the story where I can find the specific? I think I'm finding the wrong story.
I did not find it wasn't an article, it was just like a clip someone
actually I do
shared.
remember it was maybe like it was a few weeks ago, right?
I was gonna say like a month or two ago, I think, but yeah.
Well, and people are talking about like doing public scenes and shit. And well,
Yeah,
I'm like, if sex workers,
because there's another one going around now too of it was labeled like sex worker gives freebie to homeless guy, and it was like in a park, and I'm like, what are y'all, why are y'all trying to get locked up? Like,
yeah, what? And I'm like sex workers are like, this is fucked up, and then fucking people are saying that we're horphobic. I'm like, I am pretty sex positive, I would say. And I'm not fazed by a lot of things. Like I have done unspeakable things to like men's bodies, but I also don't want to see your pussy in the park.
seriously.
I mean, unless we've made sure that no one else is around, then I'd love to see your pussy in the park. But that's, you know, clearly not what's happening in these situations. Like,
I'm saying. And it's wild to me how people are trying to be like, well, you're being sex negative or you're being horphobic or, you know, and it's like, no, I just feel that I'm allowed to have boundaries and not have to be involved in everything all the time. Like,
yeah. God, I remember I was teaching a class maybe, oh God, 8-9 years ago, and I wasn't doing sex work at the time, but I had been I like just recently quit, and I was teaching Dracula, and I gave some like lecture on like rape metaphors, something about like stabbing. I can't fucking remember. But one student went all the way off about how I'm sex negative. And it was funny because it was a married undergrad too. And I was like, really? This is like, am I? But like, no, actually it is not sex positive to be like, or to enforce that everyone like respect your right to fuck whatever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want, regardless of their consent. That's like rape culture. That's not sex positivity.
exactly.
Like, like, are they going to defend the dudes on the subway who like jerk off now? Is that okay? Would it be okay if they were filming content?
Right. You know, as I'm saying, like, I'm not a fucking fan of this at all. I hate it.
Now, you did mention something as this topic was moving along, and I pull out these little nuggets because I'm like, hold on, we shouldn't just gloss over that. Now I'll get to the serious part, but of course, when I put in the keywords, the New York Post came up again. I just want to look at the New York Post headline. They're very serious people over there. Dominatrix demands taxpayer-funded dungeon. All right, that's the New York Post thing. But I found this, September 18th, 2008, Vice cops shut down Tribeca Dungeon. That's what you were talking about?
Yep.
Did you work with these folks? You knew folks that were there or anything?
I didn't at the time. I wasn't actively doing sex. I think that was before I had like done pro domination at all. But I do know a lot of people who actually I don't know anyone who was at that dungeon specifically, but I know a lot of people like adjacent to it. And it's a big like in the local scene, if you say like the raids, you know, people know what you're talking about. And you know, I think I'm like 1 degree of separation away from a bunch of people who were directly impacted. But yeah, I wasn't. But that really, really dramatically changed the landscape in New York. And like, I personally would prefer that it not get worse. Like, I don't think that makes me more phobic.
Okay, I can't find the original video now, but it was on Twitter. It was at that girl fierce talking about it, where this is how I saw it because I follow her. She said, I just saw a video of a woman fucking herself with a cucumber in the grocery store, and I just want to know why y'all want to be sex offenders so bad. And the response is, so a person who has sex in public is a sex offender?
Yes.
Legally, yes.
Wait. So you know where I go with that. So that's a tweet they made, but no one verified that person was definitely telling a true story in that tweet.
About the cucumber thing?
Yeah.
No, because the video was going around.
Oh, there was a video.
Yeah, because it was like someone was filming it on their phone and was like, I'm gonna put this on my OnlyFans. And
or like with the raids, I remember I was talking with a friend about this recently. That there was one dungeon that was like 100 yards from a fucking school. And like, I don't know, would maybe be kosher if they were like hella discreet, but doms would like take clients out and like pee on them in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna get everyone arrested. What are you doing?
Seriously. And you know, I think the frustrating part is that it's a very nuanced conversation. No one wants to have nuance because it's completely fine to acknowledge that we live in a society that's relatively sexually repressed and has a lot of really bad ideas about sexual expression. We can also acknowledge that if you're going to do something, you have to have the consent of the people around you, and just going out in public and whatever it is that you're doing is not the way to go.
Right. Or that like it's not just you, we're in a community of people, and if you're like, it is totally fine for sex workers to fuck in the grocery store, then what does that say about sex workers? That we have no boundaries.
Exactly.
And we're incapable of understanding the concept of boundaries.
And I think it's even more frustrating, like particularly from like a rape culture aspect, because if sex workers have no boundaries, that means you're also allowed to do anything you want to a sex worker because a sex worker has no boundaries. And so now we're in this like awkward position of like, well, why can't I just fuck you? You're a sex worker. You don't have boundaries. And then,
which is also why I'm like, doms, stop advertising that you're getting naked and fucking your clients. If you work in a commercial dungeon, because I don't want to get canceled again. But even that didn't work.
But yeah, that's like where it ends up leading. And it's like very frustrating because you're making everything really unsafe for everyone, not just in terms of police presence, but also like physical safety of sex workers. Because if that is the image that you're putting out there, is that anything is okay at any time, you know, and then of course, if that's the theory, you know, someone's going to try to like, you know, make it even worse and be like, well, maybe that includes children, or maybe that includes animals if we don't have boundaries about anything. And it's like, let's not go that fucking route. And, you know, and then this whole like, so
should I get the consent of the cucumber next?
Oh God, exactly. Like, it's so very frustrating. And like, I think that's the thing that people refuse to grasp. I don't give a fuck where you put the cucumber. Okay, I do.
As long as it doesn't end up back with the other cucumbers.
Exactly. It's that I don't have to see you doing that with a cucumber. If I want to see you doing that with a cucumber, I will subscribe to your OnlyFans and I will watch you do that with a cucumber. Right? Like, time and place for that. And it's also really annoying. People like, oh, so you're like, so sex offenders? You're saying all these people are sex offenders? And it's like, well, if you're asking me whether I think it's morally whatever, that's one thing. But from a legal perspective, yes, that does make you a sex offender. Don't get put on the sex offender registry for some stupid shit like that, please. Because, you know, like, I do think that the sex offender registry should be for, you know, like pedophiles or, you know, actual rapists. That's who I think should be the only people on it.
And not people who like took a leak in public.
Right. But that's not the world we live in. Like,
no, it's not.
Come on.
Like, we can't talk about this shit in like purely theoretical, rhetorical terms. Like, they're actual people with like lives, like actual real people.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
People who,
like,
there's people
other than you. Like,
it's wild.
I'm like,
like,
I don't care what you do with the cucumber.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And it's wild because I lived in an apartment complex, and two people who lived there were on the sex offenders list. One of them was on it because he was homeless and got caught peeing outside because homeless, didn't have anywhere to go. The other guy raped like a 12-year-old girl. And I'm like, that is the world we live in. Y'all are both on the same list. Like, please behave accordingly, behave responsibly. Like, there are serious consequences that I can't do anything about. I cannot redo the sex offender list.
And Phoenix, Calida, and I being the type of people we were, that was when we first moved in together. So I think we were like barely just hitting our mid-30s at this point in time. And we found out that the sex offender, the second one you mentioned, and we went and printed up sheets with cuz name and picture and crime and posted them up around the neighborhood.
Okay.
We just get down like that.
I'm just saying.
Because that's not... And also, I mean, as far as like if jails and shit have to exist and the police system has to exist, those are the motherfuckers I'd like you to get.
Yeah.
Well, like what we were saying about boozy earlier, like if you fucking smoked weed if you smoked weed today, but if you smoked weed a decade ago and you got caught, then like who fucking cares? Like there's no reason to bring that up. If you raped a 12-year-old, there are a lot of reasons to bring that up 10 years later. Like we can't just
yeah, and really to never stop bringing it up until it's legal to do what I would like to do. You know, terms of service and all, right? Keep the podcast up, right? This is okay for YouTube. I'm just saying, our running joke is Emperor William, and like they can just get the ruling. We have a ruling, and I'd like to just bring that gavel down.